Welcome to the YoggNation, the Spirit of Gratitude podcast on the Integration platform. Hello, friends. My name is Yogesh Patel, and this podcast focuses on bullying, self-awareness, and our inner spirit, inviting high-profile guests to share their experiences on these relevant topics. And today, my next guest is Mateo Askaripour, a New York Times bestselling author. His debut book, Black Buck, was actually featured in the Today Show's host, Jenna Hagar Bush, as the Book of the Month Club back in January of 2021, which discusses race, family, and ambition. And what makes Mateo's story unique as a writer, he actually comes from a technology sales background, like yours truly. Well, today, Mateo shares his insights and perspective on the unorthodox take on the word gratitude, his definition of success, and the reasons why he had chosen to leave social media. With gratitude in the orthodox sense, welcome to the podcast, Mateo.
Oh man, I'm reciprocating that gratitude, Yogi. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely, my honor and my pleasure. So, Mateo, I'm really curious to find out tell me about the story of Black Buck and how did you come about writing this novel that, again, New York Times bestselling author. Congratulations.
Thank you, Yogi. It was 2016 and I was at a crossroads. Many people, especially people who are listening, can relate to what that means. A crossroads of, do I go left? Do I go right? Do I go back? Do I go forward? How do I enhance and better my life and make the most out of my time here on earth? And
I'm sorry, is this part from a career standpoint or just in general?
as a career standpoint. Yeah, yeah. So I don't know. I was trying to frame it with one of those little nuggets just now. Um, so 2016, I was at a crossroads and I was asking myself, is this it? Am I happy? I was working at a tech startup. I was 24, managing a team of 30, had more money than I ever had before in my life, living it up in New York City. But when I looked at myself in the mirror, I was no longer happy with the person that I saw. I didn't feel healthy physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. I had divorced myself from the people who had loved me unconditionally and who I was closest to, in exchange for this culture, this startup life that I was living. So I said, I need to affect a change.
So this was stress induced by work.
It wasn't like stress induced. It was. I mean, there was a lot of stress, yeah, but it was more so just. It was a confluence of a variety of things. I had done a dry January that month, right? And for those who don't know, a dry month is when you don't drink anything. And again, I was young, I was out, I was partying with people, so taking that month off from drinking gave me much needed perspective, an almost objective perspective on my life and where I was at. So I said, okay, how can I get back to the parts of myself that I loved and that felt healthy? Again, something that many people listening can relate to. And that for me was writing. I'd always enjoyed writing. I didn't go to school for writing or anything like that, but I'd always enjoyed it. So I began writing about sales and startups, publishing them on blogs. Later that year, I said, why don't I write a novel? Again, just a mix of delusion and male bravado. And I later found out why you don't just write a novel. But in that moment, I said, I'm going to use this as a launch pad for health and to stir my dormant creativity and to get back to the parts of myself that I loved. And to make a long story short, Yogi, I did write a novel. Nothing happened with the first one. Nothing happened with the second one. But as you know, an adage in the world of sales and startups is fail fast, move fast and break things. So I wasn't deterred by those two instances of trial and error. So I wrote a third one, and that is the one that was eventually Black Buck that changed my life.
That is incredible. And what's the story about?
Black Buck is about a young man named Darren. He's 22, living in Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn. He has his loving mother, his caring girlfriend, his supportive best friend, and his neighborhood has him. Now, Darren is also working as a barista at Starbucks in Manhattan. And one day, one of his regulars comes by, a guy named Rhett, who is the silver-tongued CEO of a startup on the 36th floor, and he asks Darren for his regular drink. But Darren that day says no. And this man, after working through his anger, sees something in Darren, invites him all the way up to the 36th floor, and extends an offer for Darren to join his company in the role of a salesperson. Darren reluctantly agrees, and he soon finds out he is not the only black man there. He's the only black person in the entire company. So he goes through hell and back in order to make it to the top. And then he has power, money, status, but he says, hold up, I don't want to be the token black guy. So he hatches a plot to help other young black and brown people of color infiltrate America's startup sales teams, redefining what it means to be a minority in the workplace.
Wow, that is certainly so relevant in today's society and culture. I just happen to believe that there's still a lot more that can be done beyond just DEI. It's just, again, it's showcasing those individual talents that make up an organization and the culture.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And also just giving people opportunity. Because in my experience of having worked in sales, the amount of times that I saw people just given opportunities because they knew someone or they went to the right schools. People often look at DEI and diversity as this dirty word, and it's not saying hand out opportunity willy-nilly, but give people the opportunity to learn and grow, especially from entry-level roles, so that later on with time, they are now in roles of power and authority and can help bring other people who look like them and who also don't look like them into the fold, and we can all grow together.
Absolutely, that is the objective. Is this what has shaped your views on gratitude,
What?
or partly this notion, right, of giving folks a chance?
Many of my life experiences has shaped my perception of gratitude. I come from a people who are generous, who have always been generous with others, opening their doors of their homes. My grandparents in Jamaica, my parents here in the States, opening their doors to people who needed a place to have safety, to find calmer seas in a raging storm. So I had experienced that growing up, this sense of generosity, and how gratitude is not a static word, but rather a kinetic verb. It is a verb. Um, so yeah, that was always in me. And even though, throughout my life, I had lost myself a few times, um, the times I was able to return to a place of viewing myself and the world in a more positive light always started and ended with gratitude. And yes, where I am now compared to where I had been working in that job and sales and startups, and again, it wasn't all bad. Most of it honestly was pretty good. But I had lost myself. But to be to where I am now, where I'm able to turn my ideas into reality to positively impact others, opposed to making 100 150 cold calls a day or managing a team of 30 and trying to help us sell access to a digital platform that we thought was changing the world but really wasn't. I can't but live in a place of gratitude every day, Yogi, every day.
Interesting. And one of the things that you and I had talked about in some of our pre-planning call is, in the introduction, I said it's your unorthodox view of gratitude. Um, Tell me expound upon that. I think it's important for the listeners.
Yeah, and it's important for me to say right now that my view of gratitude is as three-dimensional as I can make it, right? And so I want to be careful with even using the word unorthodox, because I definitely perceive gratitude in the traditional sense of being grateful, giving thanks to the lessons that we learn, to the good things in our life, even the adversity that we overcome, without a doubt. But I've also learned, and this might surprise some people, that gratitude can sometimes be a dirty word, that it can also be weaponized against people in order to subjugate them, in order to oppress them, in order to say, here is a crumb, and I want you to be full off of it, rather than seeking a balanced and entire meal. And, I've seen it with fellow writers, I've seen it with fellow artists, I've seen it with historical figures who have ever tried to rise above their station or take hold of the narrative that others have written for them. And this often looks like someone in a position of authority telling someone who's striving for more, you should just be grateful with what you have. You should just give thanks for what you can get, because where you're coming from pales in comparison to where you are now. So don't shoot for the stars too much. And I have never been okay with that. And especially when my debut novel, Black Buck, came out in 2021, it was very important for me to express to readers and to express to audiences and to express with anyone who I was lucky enough to be in contact with and to discuss the work with, or to discuss life with, including their lives, that we as people in general, but especially Black and brown people living in the States, should not accept a crumb as a full meal, should not stifle our own dreams and our own desires and goals because others say, just be grateful for where you are and what you have today.
Is that because of the control factor? I mean, that's what I'm sensing, but is it beyond just control of one person over another?
Well, it's the reasons are myriad. It's based in fear. It's based in, I don't want this person to do better than me. I might want them to do better, but I don't want them to do better than me. And sometimes it is, if a person is in a position of authority, whether it's a manager, an agent, right? And I'm not talking about the people that I work with. I've seen it, but the people that I work with, right? There's none of that. We understand each other. We're all working together for the right reasons, and that's why I've chosen to work with them, and they've chosen to work with me. But sometimes it's the person that is supposed to be helping you achieve your dreams, who might not feel fully equipped to help you achieve your dreams in the way that you want because they're so lofty. So they say, let's pump the brakes. Let's slow down. Let's get all of our ducks in a row, and all these other metaphors and analogy that is them trying to persuade and convince you to not dare to dream bigger, to not look around and realize that the seconds of this life are slipping through our fingers and we need to make the most out of them. So what do they say? Just be grateful. And while I think it's incredibly important for us to look around at what we've been afforded, especially during times of pain and strife, and that it's good to sit in contentment at times, that it is not good to sit in contentment, it is not good to sit in gratitude when it leads to complacency, when it leads to you occupying a place on a plateau that you stay for years and years and years because you have relegated your dreams to the background because someone told you just to be grateful for where you were and to not think about where you could be.
Yeah, there's two things, Mateo, what you just said, and it's amazing, the perspective. Number one is recognizing that self-awareness of being that person who has been subjugated down, I guess, for lack of a better term. That's number one. And number two then is, what would be the remedial steps?
Yeah. And I'm really happy that you asked that, because it's important when framing all of this that we don't come from a place of lack, right? We're talking about people who are historically marginalized, historically oppressed, but within every crack of oppression and marginalization, there's love, there's levity, there's genius, right? And there's happiness and there's beauty. I'm not here to present a message of tragedy and trauma and doom and gloom, even though those things do exist. But we,
Well, the world is unfair, right? You and I both know that it's unjust, it's unfair.
The world can be unjust. The world can be cruel. The world can be unfair. That doesn't mean that we must crawl into a ball and retract into a cave and not try to make a better day for ourselves and those who come after us. So you asked, Yogi, how do we remedy the situation when people are trying to force feed mediocrity upon us, the status quo upon us? That's when we must look around and say, who's to my left, who's to my right, who have I allowed myself to get close to, who have I allowed into my orbit, and whose orbit do I also occupy? And literally ask yourself, are they going to help or harm me get to where I want to be? Are they here to help or harm me get to where I want to be? Are they saying, just be grateful, period, or be grateful and keep going? Because the two are not mutually exclusive. Gratitude and then having goals that you still want to reach, they're not in contradiction with each other. They're not in contradiction with each other. So yes, remedying this issue or this challenge of people trying to keep you small and keep you playing small, it's looking around and seeing who is around you. Are they helping or harming you? It's looking at yourself in the mirror and saying, what am I doing in order to increase my confidence, increase my self-esteem, right? And we're going to touch on social media a little bit later, I know. And also asking, what are the things that I'm grateful for that I can root myself in? And then what are the things that I might be over indexing on that are actually holding myself back?
Yeah, and I think a lot of it comes down to courage as well. Again, another thought that I wanted to share is, you hear stories, at least I've been hearing stories about, if you want to know a person, understand who their five closest people that they surround themselves with. That'll define who that person is. And so if one of them perhaps has that toxicity in them, right, that may put you down. It could be a bully, right, masked as a friend. Have the courage to say, you know, thank you, but no, the thank you. I'm gonna move in this direction in my life, which unfortunately you're not a part of, and to be able to be comfortable with that, because I think that's a lot of what I see in today's culture and society is that people are afraid to break free and afraid to be themselves.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more. And again, people might be surprised to hear this. Gratitude is great. Gratitude is necessary. I live in a constant state of gratitude. But gratitude is bad. Gratitude is malicious. Gratitude is detrimental when it holds you back from achieving your goals and becoming the best person that you can be.
Again, I think that is a strong message that hasn't been told on the podcast, and thank you for bringing that awareness to what I could call the citizens of YoggNation.
Yeah, I mean, the reality is Yogi, and I know that we've seen this in our lives and the lives of other people that we know, is that there are many people walking around today with a scarcity mindset, all rooted in fear, and that fear and that scarcity mindset makes them think and makes them agree with those who say, just be happy with what you have, because what you lacked yesterday could easily become your reality again. And again, I just don't subscribe for that. I want everyone to realize their dreams. I want everyone to have the courage, as you said, to chase their dreams. I want everyone, when all is said and done, whenever they take their last breath, to not wonder, what if?
Very true. Absolutely. And is that part of your definition of success?
Yes, yes, yes. Success for me, as I define it, is someone understanding what their purpose on this earth is and having the ability to live into it, as fully as possible. That is my definition of it. If someone wakes up and they say, my biggest ambition, my purpose in this world is to be a great father, a great mother, go be the best mother or father you could be and live into your purpose.
Is that instinctive or is that learned behavior from your environment?
Are you asking me generally or in my life specifically?
In general, or it could be both, right? I mean, well, maybe not you, because I think I think for you is more instinctive. If
I think it's all learned, and then it's all conditioned. And a lot of this, it's going to sound like therapy, but a lot of it stems back to childhood. Did you internalize the limitations that others had placed upon you, or did you eventually break out of them regardless of what age you were? Some people are breaking out of them right now at 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, right? It's not saying that you break the chains of the limitations that other people have put on you at 15 or 16, even though sometimes that's where it happens when we're rebellious, right? But it depends on how heavy those chains are. So I think, generally it's all conditioning, it's all unlearning, it's all expanding our consciousness and an awareness of the fact that life is happening, and you are either an active participant or a spectator. Regardless, it is happening. And why not be an active participant? Why not jump in and shake it up and ask and figure out who you are and what you are capable of? And again, this does not mean, Yogi, being a Fortune 500 CEO, making $1 million or 10 or $1 billion or anything like that. It's asking yourself, what do I believe my purpose to be here in life at this point in time? And then doing your damnness to live into it. And the last thing I'll say in this regard is doing your damnness to live into it does not always mean that is the thing that pays you. Sometimes you have to fund the dream. Sometimes you have to fund the purpose. That's what I did when writing Black Buck. I worked as a consultant after I left my full-time job for startup companies across North America, helping them build and scale their sales teams. And when I wasn't doing that, I was writing Black Buck. And it was very clear to me that the work I was doing with these startups, while not being, let me be honest, while not being soul draining or anything like that, I mean, there's people doing a lot more draining types of work, right, than getting a sales team in order. But the point is that I viewed that work intentionally as the work that was not my full-time job. It was just the work that was giving me a paycheck so that I could fund my dream, so that I could allow myself to eventually live into my purpose.
Absolutely. And I guess two other thoughts that came to mind, what you just mentioned about, the art of what is possible in an individual based on their capacity. Part of it, I think what brings them down is their self-limiting beliefs, and having the awareness of what those beliefs are, and then course correcting it to find those individuals that can help break those bad habits or break that negativity or that mentality. I think that'll go a long way. And it's part of the common theme on all my guests has been find your tribe, right? Find the people that are going to help support you, as you mentioned before, right? Is this person going to help me or hurt me? Two choices. That's I think that is so key, and I think that message is reaffirmed and reiterated amongst all of my guests. And so, thank you for providing your perspective on this, because it is important for a person who is listening in the quiet corner of their room, wanting to make a change but are too afraid. And it's okay. Take that first step. It's not that difficult. Um, I don't know. That's just my perspective in doing this. 36 episodes in.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more, Yogin. I want to say something to everyone listening right now, and it's that sometimes the person holding you back is not your parent, it's not your professor, it's not your pastor, it's not your best friend, it's not your spouse, it's not your cousin, it's not that bully. It's not even that bully who lives in your head rent free, but it's you. And I don't say that in a way that is intended to be harsh, but rather I say it in a way that's intended to be liberating. Because the fact that it is you can now choose to liberate yourself, not overnight, not in one shot, but slowly, intentionally, and genuinely, from that fear, from the limitations that you've placed on yourself. And you can live into your purpose and live your best life. You can.
Boy, I wish I can give you a high five right now and a fist pump. Oh, and you sure you don't want to put this on social media? And that's that transitions into the last segment for today, Mateo, and that is, how did you? I, I'm not sure if it's the right word, divorce yourself from social media, but remove yourself from social media. Tell me about that.
I think Yogi, Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, it's just based on your age group, right? I mean, I think you're a half a generation younger than me. Um, grew up on technology, so curious to hear your perspective.
Yeah, you use the word divorce, and I think that that is actually the most accurate word for this. Um, Everything that I've been saying, all of the lessons that I've learned, all of the positivity that I have sowed from my failings and my triumphs and my successes have increased tenfold in a positive manner when I got off social media. Like it's that simple. It's that simple, Yogi. Life is so much better off social media. I wish I could scream it from the highest mountain in 4K with like billions of people watching. Get off social media, or at least use it less, right? I'm not someone living under a rock. I'm not a Luddite. I'm not advocating that we don't use technology. Technology is amazing, but it's also devastating. And I think that social media is wreaking havoc on our spirits and in our relationships with other people in ways that we have not seen. Yes. And it's important for the tool to never wield the wielder. That's what I've realized. The tool, the tool to never wield the wielder. And social media is a tool that's wielding a lot of us today, and we've become enslaved to it. Now, again, I'm not here to get on my soapbox. I'm not here to preach. I'm here to talk about my experience with it that maybe some other people can relate to. And again,
Well, and I'm sorry, Mateo, before you begin, I just want to mention that that is exactly why this podcast exists. That is exactly why it is simulcast on streaming and social media, is because I happen to believe that there's just not enough wisdom on social media today. I think when, the founders of Facebook and Google and, gosh, all these social media, they had this, I would say, altruistic view of what technology can do to enhance and improve the lives of individuals. And for the most part, it has. However, I'm not going to say there's a darker element, but it's just more of the malaise element of technology. And that's what I want to be able to do with this podcast. You mentioned purpose. This is my purpose. I found it, and I'm going to move mountains to make sure that between myself and the guests and the listeners, right, we all uplift society in the gifts that we've been given and the gifts that we try to nurture.
I hear that, and I'm in full support, which is why it's an honor to be here. Um, but again, not to be long winded in this aspect, social media in my life has been fun. It's been a way to connect with other people. It's been a way to learn about other people that I do or don't know, um, or who I will or won't ever know. It's an incredible way to keep abreast of what's going on in the world, right? Social media in some ways was very positive, during 2020 with the social upheaval. And I say 2020, but it could be 2014, 2017. You know what I'm saying? Like these days, it's unfortunately all the time. So on the other side, there is a detrimental and debilitating aspect to it because you come to believe that social media is real. And me stepping into this role formally in 2021 as a published author and a novelist, used social media to engage with readers, people who I was just so grateful to know that they were reading my words, to engage with other writers around the world, all of these people. But after a couple years of doing it to the max in that capacity, a necessary recalibration happened where I felt as though this is a complete waste of my time now. Like I'm getting caught up in looking at the way someone commented on something, looking at the way that I commented on something, looking on the way if I'm going to like something, if someone liked something that I put out, just all of these things. Is a caption good enough? Oh man, that caption that person wrote is so good, but I'm a writer like them. So should my captions also be A1? Like, do I need to draft my captions and edit them in a way? Just the thought And the energy that was being given to these thoughts came to a point when I said, this is not worth it anymore. This is not worth it. And I felt as though I'd also given so much of myself to other people, not just in comments, not just with content, but also in DMs. I get a lot of DMs. I would get a lot of DMs in addition to emails and all these other things. And I would respond to 99% of them. And then it creates this relationship where I don't really know this person, but they know more about me. But I'm just so grateful, again, that they have read my work, that I'm going to respond to them every once in a while. I'm going to ask about their family. I'm going to do this, that, and the other. When in fact, all of this is taking me away from what, in the capacity of being an author, matters most, which is the work. It's just taking me away from the work. It's taking my spirit, my energy away from the work. And it's also subjecting me to things that aren't even for me, right? Critical aspects of this work, people tagging you in things, people who you don't even know, typing whatever without thought and intention. And then I'm someone who, if someone says something to me that's particularly caustic about me or my work, and I see it, I am not someone who's immediately dismissive. I'm going to look at it. I'm going to think about it a little bit. And depending on the thing, I might think about it more than a little bit. So I came to a point, despite all of the good and despite all of the amazing things that I was able to do with the tool of social media, came to a point where I said, I just don't feel like doing this anymore. It just doesn't feel worth my time. So I stopped. No. And it wasn't hard because, like the dry January, right? You would know this from our time spent together in Tucson. I don't drink. I haven't drank in at this point 8 years. And it's not hard for me. I wasn't an alcoholic or anything like that, but one day, we don't have to get into all, I stopped drinking. With social media, but I had taken that dry January before in 2016, so I'd known what it felt like. With social media, throughout the past handful of years, I would take a break for a few weeks. I would take a break for a month. I would take a break for a couple months at a time. And during those moments, yeah, it'd be a little hard. I'd have the shakes and the jitters and all of that, right? But then I would just be cruising and feeling good. So it wasn't hard for me to divorce myself from it. In the last, I wouldn't even be able to tell you, 4, 7, in the last maybe 7 months, I've logged on once to post news about my forthcoming book. And
But let me ask you a devil's advocate question, though. Without social media, how do you create that community of your fans and being interactive with them without social media?
same way we met. So I'll see you in person. Come to my events.
That's very limiting, though, right? I mean, in terms of social media, is I guess it's one form of marketing, right? There's the one to many versus the one to one. And Mateo, you know exactly what I'm talking about from a technology sales perspective.
Yeah, the thing about it though, Yogi, is at this point in my life and at this point in my career, I don't view it, and we discussed this in the car, I don't view it as my job to market my books or to publicize my books. There's a whole industry. I have a publisher. That is their job. I have a team, and a team with a marketer and a team with a publicist, right? It would be different if I was self-published and I wanted to get it out to as many people as possible. It would be different if I felt like the cards were entirely stacked against me and I had to grind hard as hell. But I did that for years. I told you I was on social media to the max, responding to everyone, putting out content, coming up with new and innovative, or what I thought to be innovative content, shooting rap verses, that I would spit on the Brooklyn corner of where my book takes place, merch. So I did all of these things, sweepstakes, spending hundreds, if not thousands of dollars to give people free things, shipping people books who would ask me for a signed book, just all of these things, Yogi. I'd done all of that. And I'm at a point now where what matters more than anything else is the work, protecting my peace, conserving my energy, fortifying my spirit in order to come to that page with everything I got. So I will connect with readers via those pages. that I publish and they get from the library or they buy. I will connect with readers. I will give them my all. You saw in Tucson, I leave it all on the floor, right? I will give my all in those in-person interactions. I don't care how long a signing line is. I'm going to talk to each and every person. Sorry, some people get frustrated and leave, but I want to talk to everyone in person. So yes, from a
And that energy transfers, by the way.
I appreciate it, man, and I do feel the love when I'm out there. And people are also, again, when you keep it to in-person interactions, you feel a lot less hate and a lot less negativity coming your way, because these people that might write
A lot less cyberbully too.
there you go. There you go. So my point is, Yogi, yes, I agree with you, man. If someone is looking to market and publicize their books and they're not on social media, it will be limiting in certain ways. But I believe that the ends, and I hesitate to even say this because it's so Machiavellian, right? But the ends justify the means, because I believe that the work will get better, and that the work will find its audience, and that people will spread it word of mouth. This is like in an ideal world, of course. So that's the way that I'm looking at it now for me.
And I think it goes back to having a person break out of that shell. The work gets better once you break out of your shell. And I think that's simple. I mean, that to me is the most powerful thing that you've said amongst many powerful things on this episode, Mateo. But boy, you talk about a bullseye. Yeah, I think you nailed it. And I think that's what hopefully the listeners, whether on social media or the streaming, help them come to that realization.
Well, one last thing I'd say, Yogi, in that regard, coming out of your shell. We've spoken about courage during this podcast episode, and courage often means doing a hard thing at a hard time when it would be easier not to. And I think that in this day and age, and we're discussing social media, that it takes tremendous amounts of courage for a person to be honest with themselves, honest about what's working, what isn't working, regarding to their life in general, or more specifically, their art, their job, whatever they're looking to achieve. And social media, in my experience, makes it that much harder for a person to be honest with themselves.
Yeah, it goes back to what Luke Russert said, take that journey of self-discovery within. And, as aptly put, divorce yourself from social media. Maybe take a week or a month hiatus and see how you feel. It's also important to document how you feel, write your worries, and see if that changes over time. Great advice.
I couldn't agree more. I like that, Yogi. Yeah. Just again, you don't have to do it all tomorrow. Take a little break, a couple days. And I like what you said about documenting that. Journal, talk about it with some friends. And you would be surprised. I mean, am I surprised? Not really. But people knowing that I'm not really on social media that much these days, feel so comfortable coming to me and me saying, man, I'm tearing my hair out over this. Like, I don't know how you're doing it, but I need to get off this for a little bit. And I say, yeah, get off it for a little bit and see how you feel. Exactly as you said, Yogi.
If you think about it, right? The moons and the high tides, you have high tide, you have low tide. So all of our worries are temporary. Mateo, this has been incredible. Would love to continue to keep in touch. Again, this has been hopefully inspiring for the listeners. Just mounds of information, and you're so eloquent, which I really appreciate. And all the best on your journey as an author. Hope to see perhaps this guy make it to another New York Times bestselling list. And all the best on your new endeavors. Thank you again, Mateo. Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Yogi. Thank you for making the space for this podcast and for having me here. And it's inspiring to be here and share these words as well.